Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Ram.
Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare, Ram
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Vancha
Hare, Hare
Kalpatarubhishya
Ram, Hare
Kripa
Krishna
Sindhu
Ram,
Hare
Ram
Hare,
Evacha
Ram
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Hare Krishna, Hare
Vaishnavebhyo
Krishna,
Namo
Krishna
Namah.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare
Sumati
Krishna,
Mataji,
Hare
are you
Krishna,
there?
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare
Mataji,
Ram Ram,
Mataji, I'm
Ram
trying
Ram,
to do
Hare
announcement.
Hare Krishna,
Mataji,
Okay, okay.
Hare
who's
Hare,
Hari
there?
Bol,
Hare Ram,
Hare
Ram Ram,
Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Sumati Mataji is trying to announce Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Go ahead.
please forgive me for interrupting the chanting. Hare Krishna, mama naam Sumati, Shama Karoto Ruddha Rasam Rajapa, Vancha Kalpatarubhishya Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, we have a Prabhupada quote. Book distribution is also chanting. These books I have recorded and chanted and they are transcribed. It is spoken kirtans. So book distribution is also chanting. These are not ordinary books. It is recommended, it is recorded chanting. Anyone who reads, he is hearing. Book distribution must not be neglected. A letter to Vipanaga, Mayapur, 19th October 1974, Atlanta. Hare Krishna. We have Sadhak Seva announcement text. Sadhak Seva means practical seva opportunities to help each other in different situations like job search, business referral, house search, finding loans officer, taxes help, legal help, health related help, matrimony related, and many other types of help. Sadhak Seva means we should not only help in motivating others for Japa, but should also help in other practical ways. Everyone who is a member of Japa conference must also help everyone else in a more practical sense. Presently, please share your name and number to our Everyday Chant Harinam Japa WhatsApp group or email to everydaychant@gmail.com. Thanks. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Namah Sarvebhya Sushwagatam Bhaktaganam Kripya Taunamevam Vasanagre Nama Vadatu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. This is Sundar Bandari from Maryland. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
This is Amrita Mani Devi Dasi from Augusta, Georgia. Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Sumati Mataji, Madan Pradam to you, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Rupini Padma Devi Dasi from Orlando, Florida. And I just wanted to mention one apology. Actually, I was praising Mataji for a chanting yesterday, Marani Mataji. But all the Matajis are really chanting very nicely. Everybody has their own flow. I just wanted to mention that today. It was there in my heart to say it, that it was so nice the chanting today. All the Matajis, giving their own energy into the Mahamantra. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji and Hare Krishna to all the devotees on this call. This is Gita from Maryland. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Manju Sharma from Orlando, Cocoa Beach. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Rupin Bhagavad Mataji, and also Sumati Mataji, Harshita Mataji, and all the assembled devotees. Dandavat Pranam, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Shamarasika Devidasi from New Vrindavan.
Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sumati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to all the devotees assembled on this call. This is Premanandini Devidasi from Ashburn, Virginia.
Krishna. Guru Maharaj महाराज की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय। धन्यवाद माता जी। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna to all devotees and Hare Krishna Mataji. This is Malini from Ashburn, Virginia. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण गुरु महाराज की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय। धन्यवाद माता जी। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. My humble obeisances to all the devotees on the phone call. मम नाम विकास कुलकर्णी, अहम टोरंटो नगरे वसामि। गुरु महाराज की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण गुरु महाराज की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय। धन्यवाद प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna. Would anybody else like to announce their names? Hare Krishna. Would anybody else like to announce their names? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, an overview. Hare Krishna, His Grace Vikas Prabhuji, please take over the call now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Once again, my humble obeisances to all the devotees on the phone call, and my humble obeisances also to the organizers of this, daily calls, for giving me the opportunity to speak about the Lord and His Gita. At the onset, I do want to acknowledge that I am not capable of speaking on any of this, and whatever will come out from my mouth, I hope and pray that it is Shastra Sangat, it is in alignment with what the Bhagavad Gita actually says. It is in alignment with what Sri Prabhupada has written in his purports. It is in alignment with what other acharyas and advanced devotees have spoken about on this topic. May the right words come out in the right spirit at the right time so that they can be absorbed rightly in your consciousness and we all progress on our path back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. We'll start with our Mangalacharan prayers. Sumati Mataji, do you want to please chant the Mangalacharan prayers for all of us?
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsya Namahum Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacham पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Sumati Mataji, for that wonderful recitation. So we are going to summarize chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. Before we begin the summarization, and it's a heavy chapter, there is a lot of philosophy in this chapter, so we'll try to cover the whole chapter. We'll see how far we reach. But before we do that, I wanted to still create a context as to where we are in the Bhagavad Gita and how we've progressed thus far. In some sense, uh, you know, the other devotees and acharyas have said that the Bhagavad Gita is basically like a jewel box that has a base, that has a lid, and then there is a jewel in between. And how they see this jewel box is the first six chapters are the base of the jewel box, and they can be seen as karma yoga. So, approaching the Lord through giving up the results of our creative activities. So, that is the essence of the first six chapters. The second and the lid is the last six chapters, which is Gyan Yoga. So, approaching the Lord through Jnana. And the jewel is the middle six chapters, which is the Bhakti Yoga section. If we understand the first six chapters, basically what has the Lord done is that he has progressively, gradually elevated Arjuna's consciousness, where Arjuna was thinking like a body, feeling as in a body, and lamenting for other bodies around him. So the Lord has elevated his consciousness from there, right with his first instruction, that why are you lamenting for this body which is impermanent? You are a spirit soul and you are eternal. Right from that moment to the end of chapter 6, verse 47, where Krishna very emphatically tells Arjuna that yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana shraddhavan yo bhajate mam some yuktatamo mata. So he says that, even as a soul, be engaged in my service, and of all the ways of engaging in his service, be a yogi who's constantly engaged in devotional service to him. So, of all the paths, he says that approach me through bhakti. Then the Lord goes through chapter 7 and 12 and further elevates Arjuna's consciousness, where the Lord speaks that he is the creator. He speaks about the creation, how he manifests the creation, how he remains within this creation, and how he remains after this creation is annihilated. The Lord spoke about his opulences, and on Arjuna's request, the Lord also presented his opulences in his universal form. Through the universal form and through that chapter, we also learned that the Lord, while he can be realized through the universal form, superior to that form is his four-handed form, the Vishnu form, and superior even to that, and rarer even further than that, is the two-handed form of the Lord. Now, having realized all this, having realized that he is the soul, having realized that his prime duty is to serve the Lord, having seen the opulence of the Lord, having seen the supremacy of the Lord in every possible way and through every possible uh, question that he could have asked, Arjun Maharaj is now at a point where he is basically fully convinced that he is the soul, that he has to serve the Lord, and Lord Krishna is right in front of him, who's told him all this. So then the question comes is, what is the need for these last six chapters? Why is Arjun Maharaj now asking this question? But that question will remain in our mind if we do not align with how Arjun Maharaj thinks about this. So and this is where perhaps I am making a leap, but as a soul who's realized all this, when he now looks around, he's like, what is all this paraphernalia? What is this? These armies are here. They are all souls. They are all supposed to serve the Lord. But here we are in this battlefield trying to fight. Why? Why am I in this? Why am I entangled in all this? How does a soul get entangled in all this? And that is the purpose of the last 6 chapters. And these are very insightful questions that Arjun Maharaj asked to get us these answers. So even as a realized soul, we have to look at this universe. We have to stay and live within this universe, live through this life form. And how do we live? And whatever life situations we face are because of other souls who are in this universe, who are interacting with us. And how do we interact with them? And then finally, how do we come out of this entanglement? So that is the purpose of this last 6 chapters. So let's start to look at what is contained within this chapter, chapter 30. So the chapter, very quickly, the flow of the chapter is, it begins with 6 questions from Arjuna. He asks about the Prakriti and Purusha. He asks about Kshetra and Kshetrajya. And he asks about the knowledge and what is to be known through that knowledge. So that's verse 1, and the Lord then explains directly certain questions and then elaborates on certain other questions throughout this chapter. So verses 2 and 3, the Lord explains the Kshetra and Kshetrajya, that is the field, and by the field what it means is, in a broad sense, this material nature, this paraphernalia, this universe around us, and also what directly it means to us as the embodied souls. The Kshetra is the body that we have. Kshetrajna is the knower of the body, the soul, and there is also another Kshetrajna, which is the super soul. Verses 4 and 5 are the Lord's promise that He is going to elaborate all of this on the basis of you know, realized knowledge of other sages, on the basis of their you know treatises, and also on the basis of Veda and Vedanta Sutra. And he says that this is very elaborately described. So he's going to describe in some summary form, but it's very elaborately described in the Vedanta Sutra. So that's verses 4 and 5. He then speaks about the creation, this whole creation, and he speaks about the 24 elements that are part of this creation and the interactions of the 25th element, the soul, through the facilitation offered by the super soul, the 26th element, with these 24 elements, which is what moves this world along. It creates activity within this world that propagates the whole world continuously. So verses 6 and 7 are about creation and the interactions the soul has within this creation. Verses 8 to 12, the Lord describes what are the essential ingredients, the prerequisite components to progress on the path of knowledge. They are also, in some sense, as you hit each milestone, they also become knowledge. So it is the path as well as the components of that path on the way to knowledge. The Lord very emphatically also says that anything other than this, what he is described, and he describes 20 specific components or milestones on the way to knowledge. And he says that anything other than these 20, if we are engaged in those activities or those pursuits, then that is ajnana. In verses 13 to 19, he speaks of the object of knowledge. And the object of knowledge is basically to know the Kshetrajya and to know the Prakriti. He describes that Kshetrajya are basically two, the soul and the super soul. he also describes the Prakriti, as in the material nature, and how the Brahma and Parabrahma are superior to matter, and how all three are distinct. So, Prakriti, the living entity, and Super Soul, how they all three are distinct. They are eternal, all three are eternal, but they are all distinct. And then he emphasizes that Mad Bhakta Etat Vigyaya Mad Bhavayo Upapadyate. So he says that only his devotee can fully understand all this. So again, the emphasis is on bhakti and devotional service. And in some sense, you know, even in verse 8 to 12, where he is describing knowledge, there is a very essential aspect of knowledge, which is Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhakti Avyabhichari. So, as the process or the path or the milestone on that path to acquiring knowledge, if one is unable to achieve Ananya Bhakti, Avyabhicharini Bhakti, undeviated Bhakti, uninterrupted Bhakti, then in some sense, whatever he has endeavored for is Shram Eva Hi Kevalam. It is just futile effort with no real consequence. So we have to hit, if we have to be successful, we have to hit unalloyed, uninterrupted bhakti for the Lord. Verses 20 to 26 speak about the causes and effects and interactions the jiva has with the prakriti, and how the super soul facilitates all of this and yet remains aloof from it. Then verses 27 to 31 speak about Jnana Chakshu. So once you've acquired that knowledge with how to see this world, the eyes through which that knowledgeable person now looks at this entire universe, and what the possessor of the Gyan Chakshu basically has in terms of quality. And then lastly, the verses 32 to 35 basically speak of the non-doership of the soul. So we are going to cover a whole lot of philosophy as we go through this chapter. This was the brief summary and contents of this chapter. We will dwell on some key aspects. So we will first talk about the Kshetra and the Kshetrajya. We will then elaborate on the creation. We will also take a pause on the 20 different elements of knowledge. We will speak about the super soul and the soul a little bit more in detail. We should understand verses 20 to 26 as the causes and effects, and why and what propagates this world, and it keeps going like life after life after life, why this propagation happens, and then what is the conclusion of this chapter. So the first two verses where Arjuna has asked this sixth question, the Lord directly says, this body, Arjuna, is the Kshetra, and the knower of that body is the Kshetrajya. And he also says that I, along with the soul, am also the knower of this body. So let's take a pause. We've gone through the whole Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, and we've also summarized the first 12 chapters. If we were to look at this verse, we are the knower of our own body. How would you describe your body? What do you mean by body? Anyone wants to ask? What do they mean? So you are the knower of your body. Can you describe what it is? Anyone?
Prabhu, it means that you have knowledge of only what's going on in your field of activity, in your body. You don't have idea of what's going on in the other bodies.
That's a good answer. Anybody else? So, see, the thing is, yes, we do not know what is happening in other bodies, other kshetras, but even within our kshetra, how much do we know what this kshetra is? So, if we understand, and the Lord is going to describe it in detail, but Prabhupada has spoken about it in the fifth verse of this chapter in his purports, where he elaborates on what this kshetra is. And it is very interesting how in Sanskrit they describe, they don't say the body, they say kshetra. And this is why uh, you have to see that Arjun Maharaj uses the word kshetra because he is now seeing himself distinct from this kshetra. So he's saying, what is this around me? What is this composition of matter around me? And what is the same that I see around this whole battlefield? And why are these souls each within their own kshetras like me? And why are we engaged in this war when our duty is supposed to serve you? The word kshetra is also very interesting because in Sanskrit it means field, field as in what a farmer cultivates. So, Mataji, you're right. We don't know what is in other field, but do we even know what comprises our own field? What is within our own field? So, essentially, this field is of two different or two distinct qualities. There is the Sthula Sharir and then there is the Sukshma Sharir. That is what the field is. Now, the reason I pointed out to the purport of uh, verse 5 from this chapter that is written by Srila Prabhupada is because Prabhupada speaks about Brahmapucha. What that Brahmapucha is literally it means the tail of Brahma or Brahma. And in chapter 8, we know that Arjuna Maharaj had asked the question as to what is Brahma, and Brahma is basically the soul. So Brahmapucha is the tail of the soul. The tail always follows the bird. If the soul is the bird, then the pucha or the tail, Brahmapucha follows it. And the Brahmapucha is elaborated. So whether I said that there are two ways to understand Sthul Sharir and Sukshma Sharir, there are actually 5 levels to our existence. The outermost layer is the Annamaya Kosh, which is propagated, which lives through the food we eat. But that food that we eat is converted first into energy. And Krishna said, uh, uh, Pranapan Samayukto Pachami Annam Chaturvidam. So it is the Pranvayu and Apanvayu through which he, as the Vaishwanara, helps us digest that food. So basically, what does that mean is the food is converted into energy. So the second layer, so think of ourselves as 5 concentric circles. The outermost circle is the bodily layer, which is sustained through food, which is converted through energy, which is the second layer. So Pranamaya Kosh. So outermost is Annamaya Kosh. Second from outside is Pranamaya Kosh. That Pranamaya Kosh is channelized by Manomaya Kosh, our mind. So think of it this way. You have the energy, your hand is there, but that hand cannot move on its own unless some energy is acting on it. But that energy is also there all the time, but that hand will not be moved unless your mind makes a creates a thought, creates a desire for it to be moved. Then the energy is channelized. Then the final layer, the physical layer, which is comprised of the bone, the uh, muscles, the fat, the skin, the blood, all of that is channelized, and then the movement happens, right? So outermost is Annamay, second from outside is Pranmay, and the middle layer, the third layer, is Manomay Kosh. This is where our likes, dislikes, feelings, all of that, and accumulated memory from our past births is all sitting. That Manomay Kosh is controlled by the fourth layer, or second from inside, which is the Gyanmay and Vijnanmay Kosh. This is where our ability to think, analyze, interpret, and conclude remains. So, this is also where our false ego sits. The false ego which thinks that we are this body. So, take the example that if your hand is there and there is a snake or a scorpion next to it, and this is just an example, then even though your mind will tell you that move the hand away because the snake or the scorpion can bite us and that's not good, uh, the intelligence will tell you. So this is the distinction, because it's otherwise very difficult to distinguish between what is intelligence analysis versus the mind. Now you can see the distinction. There is a slightly different layer that analyzes things, and it will analyze that the speed with which I can move my hand is much less than the speed with which the snake can strike me. So that intelligence layer is the fourth layer, but it is the layer of the false ego, because it cannot think without duality. It cannot analyze without duality. That's where the false ego is. It also forces us to think that me, myself, mine versus them, others, everything else. So you have to transcend even that, and then you come to the stage of the soul, the Anandmaya Kosh. This is where the soul resides. It is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And while we cannot understand it through Chit and Ananda and Sat, we can understand it through Chitta. It is awareness. So what the awareness does is it is just simply pure awareness with no discrimination. So it will be aware that the snake bit me. Snake is a composition of some atoms. This body is a composition of some atoms. And as it bit me, the atoms that comprise my blood have coagulated. They've stopped flowing, and slowly the outermost layer, the Annamaya Kosha, is separating from my inner layers, mind, intelligence, ego, because the prana is now evaporating. So that is what our kshetra is. The uh, Sthul Sharir and Sukshma Sharir. Sthul Sharir is the Annamaya Kosh, Sukshma Sharir is the mind, intelligence, and ego. And what connects the Sthul and the Sukshma Sharir is the Pranmaya Kosh. The reason this is all relevant is when it comes to verses 6 and 7, where the Lord is describing the creation. And what he says here is, Mahabhutanya Ahankaro Buddhir Avyaktamevacha Indriyani Dashekanta Panchachan Chendriya Gochara Ichchadvesha Sukha Dukkham Ranghas Chetanadhriti Etat Chetram Samasena Savikaram Udaritam. Very simply, what this means is, first, there were, in the Mahat Tattva. So the Lord first has, and it's not described in this verse, but in the Mahat Tattva, the Lord first created the five great elements, or the Mahabhutas. And they are the ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Then from there, from those five elements, come the tanmatra. And the tanmatras are the ways through which you can feel those five elements. So those tanmatras are for the ether or the sky around us. Sky is not really the right word for ether, but the space is the right word. For the space, you can feel it through sound. The second element is air. Now, for the sound to flow, air has to be created. So second element is air. And now air has two qualities. So space has only one quality, which is sound. But air has two qualities, the quality of touch and the quality of sound. From air comes fire, which has a third quality, which is form and shape. So through fire, you feel the form, you can touch it, and there is sound to it. From fire came water, and water has four qualities. The fourth quality is of taste. So now there is taste, there is shape, there is touch, and there is sound as qualities to water. And the last element that was created was earth, which comes with the fifth quality, which is smell. And earth has all five qualities: sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. If you look at it, for each element, there is a primary acquiring sense. So you have the ears through which you can get the sound and understand the space, the skin through which you can feel the touch and feel the air, the eyes through which you can see the form, the nose through which you can uh, smell, and then the tongue through which you can taste. In total, we've discussed now 15 elements. Then there are the five working senses: the voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. So we total 20 elements now. The unmanifested, when only the five elements were created, but the modes of nature were still unmanifest. That stage on its own is pradhana. So that's the 21st element. Then the mind, intelligence, and ego are the other three elements. So total 24 elements. Now you can see the mind, intelligence, ego is the Sukshma Sharir, and what is comprised in those 10 senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, which is ear, skin, eyes, nose, tongue, and the five working senses, voice, legs, hands, and genitals, and the composition of them through ether, air, fire, water, earth, comprises our Sthul Sharir. And it interacts with every other thing around us through sound, touch, form, shape, taste, and smell. So that is what this whole world is. The 24 elements, which is basically the kshetra around us, and 25th element is the soul. The soul interacts and acts through this kshetra with other kshetras. And none of this is possible without the super soul. So he is the facilitator. So that's the 26th element. So there are 24 elements in this creation, and aloof from this creation, this prakriti, is 25th element the soul and 26th element the super soul. Our interactions are also very interesting with this external world. So our interactions basically arise because we have this desire, this perverted desire. Instead of serving Krishna, we wanted to gratify ourselves. So it's like, the kid says, I want to play. Play what? I want to play a video game. So the father has to create a hardware, a software, a network for that kid to play. So now the kid is playing. The soul in us is playing in this universe. For what? For sense gratification. So it has been given these tools by the Lord for our sense gratification. But what does that result in? At the gross level, it results in desire, hatred, happiness, distress, which resides in the mind. But it comes from this physical interaction. More subtler than the results of our interaction with this world is the tendencies or vritti. The Sanskrit word or Hindi word is vritti. We develop tendencies and vritti, which creates the inherent liking and disliking, and I want this and I don't want this, and this is good and this is bad. These convictions, these are the more subtler effects of our interaction in this world. The time, actions, interactions, and their reactions, they all result in the change in this external world and also in this body. And therefore, the body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts, and it begins to decay, and then it vanishes. So that really is this Kshetra, knowledge of what this is around us. We don't really understand it, but we need to start to begin to understand this. And the more we understand, the more detached we can become from the Sthul Sharir and the Sukshma Sharir. And that is the purpose, to become a little detached. It's not me, it is mine, and therefore it is different from me. And you may say that, how come the Lord is not speaking about molecules, cells, atoms, etc.? But if you really understand what level at which the Lord is dealing with this topic, he is going even more deeper than where science has gone. Because the molecules, the cells, the atoms, the nucleus, the genes, DNA, RNA, all of this stuff actually have inherent memory and intelligence. And that is what the Lord is talking about. So he's not talking about the physical form, he's talking about the subtler form, and then the physical manifestation in terms of cells, atoms, etc. So that was Kshetra. Now Kshetragya. So Kshetragya, we said there are two, basically the soul and the super soul. But how do they come about? Maybe I don't have to go into that level of detail as to how do they come about, but you can, for those who are interested, you can go through Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 5th chapter, verses 18 to 42. But essentially, it's through Karanodakshayi Vishnu, through Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, through Shirodakshayi Vishnu, who's basically the Paramatma, who can be sensed and realized through the Virat Rupa, that the jivas in this world are coming and sustained. There is one last thing I want to dwell on when we are speaking about Kshetra and Kshetragya. If we understand the reason Arjun Maharaj uses the word Kshetra and its English form of field, we can understand that a field needs to be cultivated. If we are a innocent farmer, then we'll let the field the way it is, and there will be weeds in it. There may be fruitful things in it. There may be unfruitful things in it, but we have no control over that thing. But if we are a conscious farmer, then we need to know what is in this field. What kind of crop have I developed? What kind of seeds are there in this field? And how do I weed this field? That is the purpose of knowledge. So Just like a field, be careful of knowing the crop we want and the crop we have, and how to change from what we have to what we want and where we need to go, and what are the nutrients that are required to uh, grow the crop we want. That is what we need to do by analyzing our Sukshma Sharir. So, in some sense, you can think of the Sthul Sharir and Sukshma Sharir as two different prisons. The outermost layer, the Sthul Sharir, is a prison that we can get out of after we pass through this life. But the inner prison, the Sukshma Sharir, continues with this soul throughout its journey. And we need to start to change that Sthul Sharir. That is a very difficult fight we have to fight within ourselves. Now, moving to the next section where how to unentangle ourselves, right? So we are entangled with these 24 elements and its interactions through happiness, distress, etc., etc. How to unentangle? So verses 8 to 12 describe of 20 qualities that will help us come out of this entanglement. How that will help us cultivate the kind of field that we want to have. So those 20 qualities are there. I don't want to necessarily read the 20 qualities, but there are three or four that I want to elaborate on. Hare Krishna. The most important, essential quality that we need to hit, it's a milestone we have to hit, which I had already spoken about, is constant and unalloyed devotion to the Lord. So if you gain knowledge, but you are not reaching to the point of that constant and unalloyed devotion to Him, then it is meaningless. So you have to reach up to there. To reach up to there, the most essential element that Prabhupada has mentioned in the purports to verses 8 to 12 is approaching a bona fide spiritual master. So you have to hit constant and unalloyed devotion, but to achieve that, the most essential thing you have to do, the most required, without which you cannot get to that stage, is approaching a bona fide spiritual master. And all of this starts with humility. Humility is, in some sense, not seeking, not craving, appreciation from others. Humility also means not allowing our ego to stand in between what we should be achieving and where we are. And through that ego, not allowing our own personal selfish desires to stand in between. So that is true humility. Another key word that I think is interesting, because we not only deal with ourselves, we also deal with the world, is ahimsa. Ahimsa is a word that has come in Bhagavad Gita in three different places. It came in chapter 10, I think around verse 4. It came in this verse here, and then it comes again in chapter 16, when the Lord is describing the demigod qualities or the good qualities. The reason it is significant is because non-violence, as is generally known, is basically, not doing harm to anybody or not doing bodily harm to anybody. But non-violence, when seen from the perspective of the soul, which is residing in the Sthula and Sukshma Sharir, means that you should help others come out of these two prisons of Sthula and Sukshma Sharir. Otherwise, if you perpetuate, if you keep telling somebody to enjoy this world and to engage them in enjoying this world better, you are actually creating violence against that entity. So, perpetuating somebody's existence in this world is violence against them. That is hinsa, because that soul will have to take multiple births on account of that engagement. Therefore, non-violence is helping everybody else achieve their spiritual goal. That is true non-violence. Because for a soul, taking multiple births is not what is required. That is actually violence against it. Going back to Godhead is non-violence. Propagating going back to Godhead is non-violence. So it's a very interesting way how spiritually non-violence is prescribed versus what societally we understand non-violence to be. Then verses 13 to 19, where we are talking about the soul and the super soul. Verse 13 basically says that in the second line, Anadim mat param brahma nasat nasat uchyate. So the soul is anadi, it is eternal. It has no cause and no effect. So the Lord has already described the soul in terms of Arjun Maharaj's questions around what is Brahma uh, in chapter 8. So he does not elaborate on that. But verses 14 to 19, he elaborates what the super soul is, where he is describing so many different qualities of the super soul. But the interesting thing that you can see is when it comes to the super soul, they say, it takes the it takes everything to create this world. So there is going to be inherent contradictions within this world. And because he is the super soul that sustains this world, all of those contradictions come about in him and they are assimilated in him seamlessly. What are those contradictions? So, verse 15, it says, Sarvendriya Guna Bhasam. He is the origin of all senses. He is the original source of all the senses. And he is Sarvendriya Vivarjitam. He is also without senses. That means he is not influenced by these senses and he does not have these material senses. He maintains everything, but he is asakta. He is sarvabhrit, yet he is asakta, unattached. And while he provides all these qualities in this universe, he is nirgun. So he is not affected. He does not have any of the gunas of this world. He is sukshma. He is avigyeya. That is, he cannot be known. He is absolutely far, as in Durastham. He is far, far away from us, from this world. And he is inside this world too. So where is Goloka and where is he? Inside every single atom. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam yuvacha sthitam. So he is undivided, yet he appears divided in this world. And that is his position. So if you have a cake and you divide it into, say, 10 people or 12 people on this call, you divide it into 12, the cake is gone, but not with the Lord. The Lord, basically, he will divide himself into 12 and he will still remain as he is. And while he maintains this world, he is Grasishnu also. He devours this world also. So to know him is the knowledge. It is the object of the knowledge, and it is also the subject of the knowledge. And this verse will also come in a slightly different format in verse 15 of chapter 15. And this is where in verse 19 the Lord says, only my bhakta can know this and reach me through this knowledge. So again, all of those 20 elements of knowledge are to know the soul and the super soul and how they are different from this material manifestation. And the ultimate purpose of that knowledge is to basically engage in that devotional service and reach Him back to Godhead. Now, verses 20 to 26 basically are about the cause and effect. So, what are we doing in here and how this world propagates? And it is interesting. In verse 20, it says that this is eternal. The material nature and living entities are beginningless. So material nature is also beginningless. It is eternal. Living entities, of course, because we are parts of the Lord, we are eternal. And their interactions and transformations propagate this material nature. Now it is interesting. Maybe I'm going a little bit deeper, but it's good for our knowledge. The living soul is sometimes referred as Prakriti and sometimes it is referred as Purusha. So if you recall in chapter 7, verses 4 and 5, the Lord has already said that Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Revacha Ahankaritiyam Me Vinna Prakriti Rashtada. So Sthul Sharir and Sukshma Sharir are his separated material energies. And then he says, Aparayam Aparayam iti stvam anyam prakritim vidhi me param. Jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dhariti jagat. So here he says the living entities are different from this previously described material energy, but he still calls them Prakriti. It is a superior Prakriti, a superior energy of mind. So that is how he is described the living entity. So now, here, why is he being called Purusha? So the living entity is actually Prakriti, a separated energy, so marginal energy of the Lord. But he is called Purusha because he has the tendency to enjoy. So Purusha is somebody who's the enjoyer. The Lord is the real enjoyer. The Jiva, who's the marginal energy of the Lord, has the tendency to enjoy, not to ability to enjoy, but the tendency to enjoy. And therefore the Lord gives him the paraphernalia to enjoy in this world through the Sukshma and Sthul Sharir. And you can understand this through the analogy of, say, kids playing in the playhouse. So the mother and father have the actual house, but the kids now want to act out. They cannot act out as the parents. So they want to act out. So for the kids' pleasure, the parent has created a small, in one corner in his backyard, a playhouse, and the kids are playing there. The challenge with us kids who are playing in this playhouse of material universe is that we forget that we have to go back to the real house. We keep playing and we keep changing our play, birth after birth after birth. We need to go back to him, who's the real Purusha, who's the real enjoyer. So, moving to verse 21, Karya Karan Kartitve Hetu Prakriti Ruchyate. So action and reactions, cause and effect, is basically the play of atoms, play of the Sthul Sharir with other Sthul Sharir on account of the likes and dislikes, etc., and the tendencies of the Sukshma Sharir within billions and billions of souls. And that is the kind of fabric the Lord has created. So everyone has their likes, dislikes, and aspirations and the purpose in life. He's woven this beautiful fabric out of it. And then he says, Purusha Sukha Dukkhana Bhoktritve Heturuchyate. So it is the living entity who's feeling the happiness and distress because of his association with this Prakriti. Now, this is interesting. And again, maybe I'm going into too much detail, maybe I'm creating confusion, but I think as diligent students, we need to understand, because one of the things we'll understand or get to towards the end of the chapter is that the soul doesn't do anything. So if the soul doesn't do anything, and we've read in chapter 3, verse 27, Prakriti Kriyamanani Gunakarmani Sarvasha Ahankar Vimudatma Kartaham iti Vanyate. So he is vimud, he is foolish to think that he is doing something. So if the living entity is not doing anything, Prakriti is Kriyamanani, Prakriti is doing everything. And then the Lord further says that Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagad Viparivartate. So it is under his direction the Prakriti is doing everything. So again, the living entity is now not doing anything. So if the living entity is not doing anything, why is the living entity facing happiness and distress? Because here it is very clearly said, Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhautidikve Heturuchyate. So the way we understand this is, all three statements are right. Prakriti is the doer because it facilitates what is happening, and through it, the cause and the effects are manifested. The Lord is the doer, as in his Upadrashta Anumanta, which we will read in the next two verses. He is the permitter and facilitator of everything, including the Prakriti. And Jiva is also the doer because he channelizes the changes in this world through his desires. So unless the Jiva desired, the game will not go on. So he is also the doer, but it is his tendency to enjoy Prakriti, which is why he is called Purusha. Otherwise, he is not really a Purusha. He is also for the Lord's enjoyment. And we can understand this through an analogy. So give me 1 or 2 minutes just to go through this analogy. What this really means is, think of yourself as the audience that is sitting in the theater to watch a movie. The movie is happening on the screen. The actor is facing, the hero or heroine in that movie is facing life challenges. Sometimes that actor or that character is actually happy, unhappy, they feel victorious, they feel defeated, and through that, the audience is moving their level of emotions up and down. But it is this attachment. So audience has nothing to do with the actor and the character. The audience feels the happiness and distress and the victory and the defeat of the hero or the heroine, the character that is there on the screen. But the moment the audience looks around, the reality will set in. Instead of focusing on the screen, if they focus on who they are and where they are and why they are there, that attachment to that sense of happiness and that false sense of distress and false sense of victory and false sense of defeat will go away as soon as that connection is cut. Similarly, we are the witness within. We are not really doing anything. The body is doing everything. The Sukshma Sharir directs the Sthul Sharir to do certain things with other Sukshma Sthul Sharir. And the causes and actions within this world are happening. But we are the witness within. The moment we forget that we are the witness and we attach ourselves to that Sukshma Sharir through which we feel the happiness and distress, that is why Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhautitve Heturuchyate. We are living through that character. We've become that character. We need to just remain the actor. The actor should follow the directions of the director. The play that is being enacted by us is for his enjoyment. But we become so engrossed that the actor forgets that he is the actor and becomes a character. So that's the real purpose of acquiring knowledge, and that is what the Lord is trying to tell us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much. Yeah, this is very important, and maybe we can talk about it later after the class. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. And I'm glad you asked, you interrupted me because, it's a very heavy chapter. It's a philosophical chapter. Uh, I I have given this example and I've gone to this level of detail because there is a lot of practical application for us as sadhakas. Uh, but do feel free to raise comments, questions, because it, keeping it interactive will break the monotony. I don't want to be the only person who's speaking. So feel free to ask this kind of questions, ask or put in your comments, etc. And then the significant verse is verse 23, where Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhukta Maheshwara Paramatmi iti cha upyukto Dehesmin Purusha Para. So very clearly, people talk about Dvaita, Advaita. In this chapter, that concept of Advaita is completely annihilated in multiple places, where he says, I am also the knower. What does that also mean? If there was no Advait, if there was no Dvait and we were all Advait and we were all one, then he would not have said, I am also. And here also, it is very clearly said that while the soul is engaged in all this, I am the overseer and the permitter. So it's like I am playing the video game, but the provider of the video game is him. He is the one who's allowing this interaction to happen. And now, how to apply this and how to understand this and how to come out of the entanglement? One who understands the philosophy concerning material nature. This is simply translation of verse 24. The living entity and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So it doesn't matter whether we are in Rajoguna, Tamoguna, or Satvaguna, and how deep rooted our attachment to this world is. If we truly understand this philosophy, which is basically the material nature is there, interactions happen in the material nature, we are creating the happiness, distress, etc. And it's not really for us. The soul, if it engages with the super soul, has you know infinite levels of happiness that can come, which is the true nature of the soul. Because we are Ananda. Ananda is part of our soul. But because that soul has been covered by this material nature in Sukshma and Sthula Sharir, that feeling of Ananda is lost to us. We don't even know that what Ananda is. We get through this false Ananda. The audience can have its own Ananda, but it is revealing and it is distressing in the Ananda that is felt by the character in this movie. And the character, for me, my character is say, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, and I'm an accountant and I do this and whatever. That's my character. But I need to know that I'm an actor inside who's working on the directions of the director of this movie. He has put me here for a purpose. And then in verse 25, again, the Lord says, it's not that the Lord is very, very merciful. He doesn't say there is one way to come to Him. He says there are so many ways. So He says, Dhyana is one way, meditation on the super soul. Sankhya, Dhyana or philosophy is another way to approach Him. Karma Yoga is also another way to approach Him. Just see how merciful He is, that if somebody is directly engaged in dhyana, sankhya, and karma, they will come to Him, is what He says in verse 25. In verse 26, He says, Shruti Parayana. There is a very interesting word. So we've heard of Narayan Parayana, Vishnu Parayana. What is Shruti Parayana? Those who are dedicated, engaged in listening to the authority on what is transcendent. So if somebody is very genuinely listening and interested in listening to such topics, even then, by just because of their propensity or tendency to hear from authorities, they also will transcend the path of birth and death. How merciful the Lord is. You don't even have to be directly engaged in His service. You just need to be engaged in hearing about Him, and slowly you will not even know, but you've crossed the samsara saga. I know we are at 8:31, so I'll try to quickly wrap up. So, verse 28, first line, Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishthantam Parmeshwaram. And then verse 29, Samam Pashyan Sarvatra Samam Avasthitam Ishwaram Na Hinasyat Manatmanam Tato Yati Paramgatim. So, interestingly, this is very significant. So, what is the Lord here saying? The Lord is saying to see me in everything, that I am in everything that you see around yourself. And the moment you see me in everything, you will not degrade your mind. Na hinyasya atmanam atmanam. So you will not degrade your soul through your mind by trying to enjoy it, because I am in everything. You will now be able to see things in proper perspective. And now that you will not degrade yourself further, tato yati param gatim, you will ascend to the transcendental path. So the purpose of knowing the Kshetra and Kshetragya is to know that there is that super Kshetragya everywhere. And when we hate something, when we like something, uh, when we feel angry about something, we need to know that even that thing is Him. He is there. And therefore, we will now not be uh, belittling by ourselves. We will not be sinning, because now our mind knows better, our intelligence knows better. Through this, the Gyan Chakshu, through this Gyan Chakshu, then the purpose, the living entity will know that they are akartaram. They are not really doing anything. They are just witnessing. They are supposed to be witnessing things. And then verse 31 basically says, when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies. So just like I have some atoms around me that create my male body, somebody has some atoms come around them and has created a female body. Nothing different. We all are in the same journey. We all are stuck in a kind of Sukshma Sharir and a kind of Sthul Sharir. We all are prisoners in this. We all are going through this journey. We all have to come out of it. And we need to have, once we have this kind of understanding, we develop that tremendous compassion for every living entity who's also following the same journey as us. The moment we realize that, we will truly understand when the Lord says He is the Mahadyoni, that he is the womb within which this creation sits. And then you'll have the love for the mother in whose womb you are sitting. Verse 32 is also very interesting. And again, just to read its translation, the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. And then the Lord gives two examples. The way the sky encompasses everything, but is still different from everything that it encompasses. Similarly, the soul uh, is within this body. It encompasses, the consciousness encompasses the whole body, yet it is different from this body. And the other example the Lord gives is of the sun. The way the sun illuminates everything but is different from everything it has illuminated, the soul illuminates this body, is conscious of everything within this body, but it is different from that body. So those two analogies the Lord provides. And then the conclusion of the chapter in verse 35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So the whole chapter begins with questions by Arjuna as to what is Kshetra, Kshetrajya, Jnana, Jnaya, and Purusha and Prakriti. But see how beautifully the answer the Lord not only answers the question, but he links it. He links, actually, if you read the last words of every single chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you will find that the Lord, no matter what Arjuna has asked and where the chapter started, the Lord ends it with only two things. Either the verse is about detachment from this world or attaching ourselves to the Lord, back to Godhead. So that's really where the true knowledge is, because true knowledge is in detaching ourselves and attaching ourselves to the world. Sorry, detaching ourselves from the world and attaching ourselves to the Lord. So this is where I land. I'll stop and I'll see if people have questions, comments, any reflections they have on this chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for summarizing the entire 13th chapter, verse by verse. And mm, I have one doubt, Prabhu. Um, the soul and the super soul, they are in every kshetra together. And then I was just referring to a few verses that you recited. I don't remember exact verses, but I was thinking about 15.6, where Krishna says, "Na tad bhasyate suryo, na shashanko, na pavaka, tad gartva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam mama. Yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam mama." So my abode is like there's no sun, no moon. It's all luminous without any source of light. And once one reaches there, that soul doesn't come back. So, like, then why are the souls, if that soul, like Krishna says, it's perfect dham, then what made the souls come down, Prabhu, away from Krishna? And if it is Parmam, then there shouldn't be any deficiencies. Then why did we all, like, why were the souls desiring or were envious of Krishna there, that they had to come uh, into this material world?
A very deep question, Mataji. Prabhupada has, in many places, he said that is unknowable, that is, you know, at the very source of creation, and we should focus on our own journey. But if we start to understand, and I hope I am not going outside the scriptures here, but if we start to understand, it is the creation itself is his recreation. If, so I can answer your question in multiple ways. Those who are Mahabhagavatas, those who have realized souls, they carry the Lord in their heart. For them, there is no difference whether it is this world or that world. For those who are not, then there is a difference between this world and that world. Otherwise, interesting story. Once, and I'll answer it this way. Once Akbar was asked Birbal was asked by Akbar, because Akbar was being praised by a lot of his courtesans, saying that, you are God, you are even greater than God because you take direct care of us. So goes to Birbal and says, is it true? Am I really greater than God? So Birbal says, yeah, you are, because you can tell somebody to go out of your kingdom. The Lord cannot tell anybody to go out of his kingdom. So you are greater than God. But the answer is, it's a funny way to answer, but the answer is everything is the Lord. The material, the matter, the souls, and He, they all are Him. What is happening here is His recreation. Now, the second way to answer your question is, if you know the story of Jay and Vijay, they are the doorkeepers at Vaikuntha, and the four Kumaras go there. And then the Jay Vijay basically say, no, you cannot enter. So the four Kumaras say, because you have this tendency to see people differently and not see that since the fact that I am here means that I am eligible, you are not fit to be the doorkeepers. Now, you can, in answering that question, or when they curse him, the Jay and Vijay are appalled. Then Vishnu comes there and he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. All of this has happened because of my desire." So at the end of the day, even the contamination and manifestation of a contaminated desire in a Vaikuntha soul at times is on account of desire of the Lord, or on account of that very realized souls understanding the desire of the Lord, and therefore they come down. So the last way I will answer is, there is nothing wrong if, as the servants of uh, say a huge factory, or owner of a huge factory, or a servants of a very opulent person, wanting to enjoy their vacation at one of the outhouses of that wealthy person. The problem is, when they come here to enjoy, there's nothing wrong in enjoying. But when they come to enjoy, they start to put their name and registration on the, if they go to a resort and they say, oh, this room in this resort is mine, and they put the name, they take ownership. That is the problem. That is when we become thief. That is our uh, heenavritti, that we are now not acknowledging that somebody sent us to enjoy, even if we wanted to enjoy or he told us to enjoy. Nothing wrong in enjoyment, but the moment we ignore the fact that somebody is allowing us to enjoy, we do not have the gratitude for it. In fact, forget about the gratitude, we take ownership of it. So when Prakriti is, if we really understand Prakriti and Purusha, Prakriti is in that sense for the enjoyment of the Purusha. This matter, we say Mother Nature, right? If mother, if she is our mother and he is our father, who are we to enjoy the mother? So that is where the problem is, Mataji. So in some sense, it is that he must have willed, or we must have willed, that we want to enjoy. Nothing wrong with that enjoyment as such. The moment we see that it is for temporary purpose and go back. But when we start to take ownership, that's where the problem comes in. Otherwise, if suppose that same person comes here, like Narad Muni, he comes to the material world, he even goes to hellish planets. But he is carrying Vishnu in his heart all the time, on his tongue all the time. No difference for him whether he is in this world or that world. And for our purposes, one last way to answer this question is, instead of thinking about such things, we should just focus on what do I need to do to come out of this. So I know that maybe it is not fully or directly answering your question, because even Prabhupada has not directly answered that question. He just says that it is better to focus on our own journey. Yet I tried to go into different aspects of answering your question. I hope that was satisfactory, Mataji.
Yes,
If not,
Prabhu.
I apologize.
No, thank you so much for giving example of Narad Muni and of how a certain servant wanting to enjoy in the residential quarters on a resort. That example is helpful. I was also thinking about the one verse in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Yatha ichchati tatha kuru. Like we all have free will. Krishna sanctions that free will, right? So it could be that too. With all your examples, that thought came to my mind that even in spiritual world, in Vaikuntha planets, we have free will, and Krishna never, Krishna is not like, he doesn't control us or bind us. We have a free will. So probably we exercised our free will and we came to material world. And then, like you said, instead of still thinking about, like Narad Muni does, he comes here and he's still thinking about Krishna. He's always on Krishna's mission. Unlike that, we came here and we got engrossed in this material enjoyment and we completely forgot about Krishna. So that kind of is very comforting and helpful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Really
Thank you,
appreciate your call.
Thank you, Mataji. Maybe I'm, elongating the point, but the thing is, yes, the free will is there for us. But if Krishna is Akhil Rasamrit Sindhu, no matter what kind of rasa or humor you want to enjoy, he is there. He is the infinity of that in totality. So if we are associating with him directly, then why would, in some sense, if you have infinite wealth, why would you want to come to a place where you have some sort of finite wealth in, say, a millionaire or a billionaire?
That's what was
So,
bothering me,
so
Prabhu.
and yes,
That's
and
where
that
the
and
question
that's the
arose.
thing. That's the thing. So, root at the end of it, the root of it is this world is also a place of recreation for him. This creation is his recreation also, and that's where we have to sort of perhaps end and think about this whole philosophical question.
Yeah. And one place I was reading, Prabhu, that actually we see this as disconnection. We see that Vaikuntha planet is somewhere in the sky, and this is nothing is disconnected. It's all Krishna's one supreme lord's one body, and everything is part of that body. And at some places it says we turn towards Krishna, we turn away from Krishna. It's just that. I was
That
reading
is,
that explanation as well. Like you have just turned your face away from Krishna. It's just, for us, it's yugas and birth after birth, but for the Vaikuntha timeline, it's just you looking away from Krishna and then again looking back at Krishna.
that's a wonderful realization, Mataji.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks
Yeah,
for,
it is
churning my brain and making me think. I really appreciate that.
it is Achintya Vedabhed, Mataji. So it is even the uh, three-fourth is Vaikuntha and one-fourth of the creation is Kuntha for this universe.
Hmm.
And it is, uh, you know, pervaded by that Mahatattva, which is basically sort of a dark cloud on that effulgent Brahmajyoti that comes from his body. And he's created this dark cloud because that's the playhouse he's created for us. Because without this cloud of illusion, we could not have truly thought that we can enjoy. And for us to facilitate that thinking that we can enjoy, he had to create that illusion. So that's the thing. So in some sense, it is real. Yet that's the beauty of the Lord. Even within this dark cloud and this creation that exists within that dark cloud, the moment you turn yourself to Krishna, you are in Vaikuntha. So that's his beauty. That he's punished the kids in some sense, but at the same time, he's just a call away. The way the kids are playing in the playhouse, but the mother is just a call away. If the kid just shouts out, and that's all we need to do, cry out loud, and the mother will come running. The same thing.
Right.
The Lord is there. We just have to turn to Him. That's it, as you said. Hare
And
Krishna.
yeah, and that's why sadhus always say that it doesn't matter, Krishna, I don't want to be in Vaikuntha planet. Let me live here and serve you.
Yes,
So for them, it doesn't matter whether they are in Vaikuntha. They are always in Vaikuntha because they are
exactly.
always serving the Lord, right? So that's why
Yes,
acharyas, that we hear from acharyas, that they never desired to go back to like, or have liberation or go back to Vaikuntha.
yes,
They
Mataji.
kept on begging the Lord to, give them birth after birth after birth just to be here and serve.
Yeah,
Uh,
Prahlad Maharaj says that. I don't want anything. I want to actually help the souls in this world to come out of this entanglement. So I would rather live here. That's what Prahlad Maharaj says. You are so right.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Really appreciate, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else with any questions, comments, or realization? Okay, so we'll wrap up our call. It is 8:50. My apologies for going way beyond time. But as that conclusion, the purpose of this knowledge uh, is for us to realize that we are not this matter. This Sukshma Sharir and Sthul Sharir is not what we are. They are our tail. We are the Brahma and they are the Pucha. And seeing that distinction, knowing our true self, we need to engage in the service of the Super Soul. So that really is the purpose of this chapter. Try to see what qualities you have between the 20 things that are described in verses 8 to 12. Bolster the good qualities that you have. Cultivate the qualities that you need to develop from those 20. And then you will be assured of your success in this path. Hare Krishna. We'll stop with the prayers to the Vaishnavas.
Vishwa Kripa Sindhu Devache, Patitanam Bhavane
Vaishnavyo Namo Nama.
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Jai Shri Prabhupada ki
Ki
Jai,
Jai.
Vikas Prabhu ji ki Jai, all assembled devotees ki Jai. Hari Bol Prabhu ji,
Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Bol.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you
Hare
so
Bol.
much, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
wonderful
Thank you,
class. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Hare Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.